Welcome everyone to Coaching this Session. My name is Michael Rearden, and I'll be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about how to stay afloat. With the world in the current state it is, it's important for us to understand how to traverse in these tough times. So stay tuned, and we're going to get into that. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and to share this video and or audio if you're a podcast listener. As you may know, if you're a longtime listener, if you're a new listener, welcome, that on Mondays we talk about my most recent blog post. The blog posts did change time, so they do come out on Sundays at 10 a.m. rather than on Mondays on 10 a.m., just for a public service announcement. Now, the idea of staying afloat came to me many years ago when I was a swim instructor. When we're fighting in the water, right? So the child is learning how to swim and we're trying to figure out, how can I get to the instructor? How can I get to the side of the pool? And you might not be the best swimmer. And in life, if we just reflect what that teaching is, we might not be in the best situation right now. Whether it is we don't have the job of our dreams, we are maybe in over our head in bills and credit card debt. There's so many different things that can go on that is going to be weighing us down, dragging us down, being an anchor in our life. So we need to figure out how can we stay afloat during these times. And I do have some good news, and that's going to be coming later in this podcast. So let's get into the blog post so we can see exactly what is going on. So if you're new to the podcast, of course, you go to revenconcepts.com. We're going to be having a new website coming out either this week or next week. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be all spiffed up and brand new. So definitely stay tuned for that. We're going to head over to the resources tab, head over to blogs, and then we're going to go to today's blog, or yesterday's blog actually, which is how to stay afloat. Now, the idea to how to stay afloat is what I said already, is that we are trying to figure out how things are going to work in our favor, especially if we are struggling right now. If we're having hard times, if things are difficult, we need to figure out what we can do. Now, what we're going to be looking for during this time is to unlearn any bad habits, to make sure we're not making any unnecessary moves. If we're having unnecessary actions, if we're doing all the wrong things, if we're basically pushing against our progress instead of going with the progress, we're making our life more challenging. So the idea of staying afloat is, how do we become effective swimmers? How do we become successful? And at the same time, we do it easily. Because success is not something that's limited just to a few people in the world. We can be successful too, right? We can have great success. And success is going to be determined by you. Of course, we can figure out how much we want to make every year. We can figure out a plan, a course of action, and then make sure we follow through. I understand that sometimes you might be in a difficult position where you might not be able to act, or if you don't have the motivation to act and to do the things that you want to do, because complacency and procrastination can easily take over any mind. So we have to be able to combat that. Sometimes many people don't even understand that they're in charge of themselves. So if we can understand that we are the people who get us from A to B, or from our starting point to our goal, then we can be in a better position to make forward progress. So staying afloat is going to be dealing with that. And one of the things I really enjoyed in this blog article is the story when I was a swim instructor. Again, there's a part in it is when I'm talking to one of the students saying that you're not swimming, you're drowning with style. And the idea of drowning with style is just going to be talking about how we're making movement, but we're not necessarily going anywhere. Imagine if you're in the water and you start flailing your arms and your legs and twisting your body back and forth. Are you moving? Yes. Are you making forward momentum? Probably, right? Some, but you're not being direct. You're using all this energy, but you're not necessarily getting the results you're looking for. Now, if you're looking to get tired, A+. But if you're looking to reach a goal, we can make some improvements, right? So this blog is going to be talking about that. And I highly recommend this read because it gives so many different points on the perspective of how we act and what we should be doing. Because many people are just making movement and thinking that movement is leading them to a better life. So yes, you are making movement, you are making progress, but is it going to be substantial? Many people who come to me before coaching, they always say, okay, well, I want this in my life. And then I say, well, what are we doing, right? I want to figure that out first. The same thing I did with the students in swimming. Show me what you got, regardless if they knew how to swim or they didn't. Now, sometimes I would get them and I'll put them on the step and I'll say, all right, swim to me. And they say, I don't know how to swim. And I say, okay, well, let's begin, right? We start from the basics. And even if they knew how to swim to me, I started from the basics. And the reason why is because if I start from the basics, I can fill in any holes or any potholes that have been along their path, right? So on their journey, they probably have some holes that need to be fixed, need to be repaired. And it's not that their road is bad, but it's more of let's make sure we have the smoothest path for us to make forward progression. Simple. And I got this idea from my cooperating teacher in high school. When I was student teaching, I learned that, okay, we all have holes in our learning in some regard where we all can make improvements. We all can make adjustments. And even if we're starting from the basic, ground zero, rock bottom, it doesn't necessarily matter what we call it, but we're starting from the start, the beginning. That is going to help us figure out, okay, is this person going to be able to keep up along the way? Where are the problems along the way? Because eventually we hit a roadblock. If you're a music player, think of playing a C scale, right? A C major scale. If you play a C major scale, it's going to be all white keys and it's not necessarily a hard scale to play. But what happened if we said, okay, well, now we want to do let's say an E major scale. Okay, now we're going to have to deal with some accidentals. And for some people, they might say, well, I don't want to deal with the black keys. I don't want to deal with all these different types of movements with my fingers. And then that can deter them from making forward progression. But there's a way to make it easy for people in the mind to see, well, this scale is not any different than the C major scale. It's just going to be talking about the different types of steps, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Understanding the steps to a scale is similar to how we understand the steps to success, because our success is going to be dealing along the same lines. There's going to be a way where we can be successful. There's many shows where there's going to be successful people. I know Grant Cardone just did a show where he took, I think, $100 or $100,000, something like that. And he's trying to make $1 million or something like that. So he's trying to make a little bit of money, a lot of money. And of course, he was able to use his contacts and figure things out that way. So it was going to be successful. But what happens if we don't have the contacts? What happens if we don't have some type of structure? If you ask any millionaire, if they lost everything, could they become a millionaire again? They would say yes. Of course, some of them might say it's going to be a rough path, but at the same time, they know they have done it. They can do it again. And this goes into the subconscious mind, because many people who think about becoming millionaires or want to become millionaires, they have a subconscious block in their mind. And that subconscious block is just going to be talking to them saying, hey, that's a lot of money. You're not going to be able to make that. And of course, we can be next door millionaires where we can be a millionaire and not necessarily have that lavish lifestyle of what a millionaire typically is from societal standards. A big house, a mansion, something like that, fast cars or multiple cars, vacations. I mean, we can go on. There's going to be so many different things that can give a person a appearance of being wealthy. And you don't need those things in order to be wealthy. You can actually be wealthy and not show the world, whether it's you just wear a polo or a t-shirt or just flip-flops in public. I mean, it's going to be personal preference. Look at Mark Zuckerberg. He drives a Honda Accord. He goes out in a t-shirt and shorts and flip-flops or maybe some sweatpants. There's going to be things that he does that's not related or correlates to him being a wealthy man. And there's nothing wrong with him going out and living this way, living this lifestyle, but understanding that, okay, I was able to reach this lifestyle. I don't have to change my preferences. I don't have to change my course of action or my lifestyle just because I have a certain amount of money in the bank. But when we have the idea of staying afloat, now we're just trying to struggle or trying to survive. And that's going to be a good thing and a bad thing. Because if we're just trying to make ends meet, guess what is going to happen? We're going to make ends meet. It's a good thing, right? You're able to pay your bills, have a roof over your head, food in your belly. All of those are going to be great things. But what happens if you want more in your life? What do you do if you want to get to the next plan or the next section or the next part in your life? Many people don't see that. Many people just see what's happening in their life right now. Yeah, of course, the world is in a tailspin, but we can't allow that to be our defining factors. We need to start to define what it's going to be for us. Because just like that student in the water, or just like a person who's starting a business, we all have that same opportunity to get the desired results we're looking for. And I said early on that we have some good news though. Like I said, many people are struggling. Inflation's at a record high. We have groceries going up. People are not getting paid more, but everything is more. Gas is more. Groceries are more, electricity is going up. I mean, everything's going up in price, which is going to mean, well, either people need to work more or people need to make more. And I know there's record Americans who are going out and getting multiple jobs just to make ends meet. Or both the mother and the father, or the man and the woman, is going to be in the household working. So the traditional standpoint of what a marriage was is slowly deteriorating because of the necessity of both people working. That's the middle class. We need both people working in order for us to make some type of progression, to make the income for each month, just to pay the bills, just to have food in the belly, send the kids to school. There's so many factors, right, that is going to be dependent on both people are working and paying a good portion of the bills. So it's not so much men are paying the substantial part of the bills anymore. Now it's going to be almost 50-50, and not saying that a woman can't pay the substantial amount of bills. It's just a different time. But now many people are just struggling because they were doing good. They had some savings and things are slowly weaning away. So now that things are weaning away, what do? Because our savings are going down, our checkings might be going down, our credit cards might be going up, and all of these are not good signs because we want the opposite, right? We want to fill our bank accounts, we want to have a good credit score, we want to be confident in our goals, in our future, but that is going to be difficult when everything is so negative. And it's not so much about optimism, right? Because if I just say, well, just look on the bright side and be optimistic and things are going to be okay, things are going to work out. Yes, things will work out, but why do we have to wait for them to work out? Why can't we go after and not just struggle to stay afloat, but why don't we become able to swim, right? To be proficient and to get to our goals and the places we want to be in life. Many people just accept their current circumstance and they don't make a change. That's why coaching is so powerful, because we figure out where we are and then we start the process to get you to where you want to be. And some people start coaching and they say, you know what, coaching is great. I'm making great progress, but can I keep this momentum up? Because people get burned out, right? Because it's so high energy, right? Because now we're leaving our comfort zone. And it's similar to how a rocket has to use so much fuel or propellant just to break the Earth's atmosphere. It's the same thing with our comfort zone. If we want to get past that comfort zone, we need to burn a huge amount of energy, whether it be just making sure everything's in line, setting things up. It's going to require a huge amount of discipline. And many people don't want to be disciplined. Many people just want to fool around in the water. Many people just want to jump up and down, maybe do some glides, meaning they don't use much energy, they just float through the water. but they don't want to make progression to start to the finish. And that's where many people are struggling. They're trying to stay afloat, but they're not willing to put in the work. So if we become willing to put in the work, then we can be more inclined to get more in our life. So instead of us struggling to survive, instead of struggling to make ends meet, we can just make ends meet and not struggle. But the struggle is good because it teaches us something important challenge. And that challenge is going to help us grow. It's going to help us get to the next point, the next part. Now, of course, we have to understand something when it comes to that struggle, that challenge. Many people are not going to want to see that struggle or that challenge in their life. They're going to look for the easiest possible way to get to what they need. And there's going to be a lot of compromising. They're going to say, well, I want to do this in my life, but it's going to be so much work. And I don't really want to do anything like that because I don't want to do too much now. So many people just settle for less. If you have a coach pushing you, then you don't have a choice, right? And of course, we always have a choice in the regards of, I get to choose my life. But when you get a coach, you get someone who's going to be your cheerleader, someone who's going to be helping you along the way. And when I was a swim instructor, sometimes I would get students who come into class and the first thing they will say to me is they would say, Mike, I don't want to swim today. Okay. What do you think I should say? What would I say to that? Should I say, well, you're out of luck, we're going to swim today? That's the opposite of what I should say. And you would think, oh, well, what are you going to do if you're in swim class and you're not swimming? The problem is the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind does all of this CRAP that we don't necessarily need. The problem with the subconscious mind is that it has such a huge influence, even though it's just a small voice. It's basically going to say, we want to do this, we don't want to do this. Most of the time when it comes to hard work or being disciplined, many people don't want to do that disciplined work. So many people just say, okay, I'm going to do what I will do until I say, okay, this is enough. This is good enough for me. I don't want to do too much. So they stay where they are. Eventually, if they stay where they are, they get tired, right? Because even though they're staying where they are, they're sinking down, right? Their posture is no longer upright. Their form is no longer perfect. So they're going down because they decided not to make improvements. They decided to stay where they are. Just think of a building that doesn't have any maintenance. Eventually, it becomes dilapidated, right? The concrete breaks down. The wood starts to rot. All of these different things start to happen. You just can't have a home and not have maintenance a part of it. So understanding that is going to be important to staying afloat. Because if we just have the same life that we had a year ago, 2 years ago, we are going to need some type of change. Because if we don't make the change, then we're going to keep on struggling because we're not making changes and we're not adapting to our current situations. Just looking at 2020, looking at that type of situation and that type of adapting. Because in 2020, I was doing the blog. There was no YouTube channel. There was no podcast because there was no need for a podcast for me at the time. I could make a call. I could go to a company and I can do my presentation and then I'm working. And at that time I was doing many workshops and it was great, right? But then COVID hit, right? The problems with all of the restrictions and the lockdowns and the mask mandates and all the scares and people being afraid, right? There was a lot of uncertainty in that time. So people didn't know what to do, right? So of course business had to shift. Now, of course, I could have kept trying to do workshops. I could have kept trying to do personal meetings with clients, but at the same time, that was not what the time dictated. So I had to adapt. And if I didn't adapt, then I would have died. I would have basically been left to rot because I didn't make the change that I needed to make. And of course, I could have said, okay, I'm going to stay afloat until things get back to normal, or I'm going to adjust to my current situation and make this situation work out for me, in which I did. That's why we have a YouTube channel. That's why we have a podcast. All of these different things came about because now everything's going to be more remote. How can I give information to people that are going to be further away, that are not going to be in the same room as me, whether it be because of restrictions or fear? Those things have to be thought about. So the good news, though, is we're trying to stay afloat. We are feeling the impact of the economy. We're not necessarily sure what tomorrow is going to bring, but there's going to be some good news. We are approaching the last few years of the crisis era. And the last few years is going to basically be the finale per se. Now, the finale is not going to be fun. It's not going to be pretty. But the good thing about the finale is it's going to be over. So we don't necessarily have to worry about staying afloat because now most people are going to be prospering, which is a good thing. But the problem with this is when we prosper and when we're doing good, are we making the right change? Because many people are just going to go back to their regular lifestyle, the same thing they were doing, trying to stay afloat, or now they're floating and they're cool about it. We need to start to have action. Because if we don't have action, next time we have a crisis, guess what happens? We're not ready. And then we're just going to be drowning in the same manner we are right now, whether it be trying to pay the mortgage, the rent, the food, the gas. There's so many different things that need our attention, especially adults, especially parents, everyone. All of these things need to be addressed. So staying afloat is more than just trying to make ends meet every single day. It's making plans to get to a better life tomorrow. And of course, if you're struggling with that, head over to revenconcepts.com and we can get you the coaching and the direction you need in order to not simply stay afloat, but to float in order to get to your destination, right? Because there is a process to it. During this high period, right, that's going to be when we're most prosperous. I already know when that time happens, business is going to be booming even more than what it is right now because people have expendable income. And right now, people are doing this to, holding on tight to their dollar. And that's not necessarily a good thing, right? Because we fail to understand something, the most important thing, investing in ourselves. Now, of course, sometimes we do it unconsciously, right? You leave high school. What's after high school? I guess I have to go to college. So you do it subconsciously and you go to college, you get student loan debt. When you leave college, now you're like, well, what do I do? And many people are in that situation. They spend all this money that they didn't necessarily materialize in their brain. And then they say, okay, well, now I'm in this amount of debt, but I invested in myself. Now I have a degree. But after school, what do? Right? We go to work or we say, I don't have money to afford this, but it can be an investment, whether it be a gym membership, buying healthy foods that are going to be nutritious and bountiful for you to give you good energy. Those things matter. And the same thing with coaching. If you're not happy in your life, why are you staying there? If you're not happy with the progress you're making every single day, why are you not making the changes? Because yes, if something is not working, we have two choices: keep it broken or to fix it. And many people decide to keep things broken because it's the easiest thing to do. It's the easiest thing for us to acknowledge. It's broken, oh well. What happens if something is broken and we want to fix it? Now our brain is like, well, it's a lot of work. Well, okay, cool. We'll get it done. And right now, a lot of things are broken. And there's going to be a lot of effort that we need to do on our part in order for things to get better. Of course, we have a high period coming, but that's not going to be for several years now. I'll probably be on episode 500 of the podcast when we're in a high period, but that's a journey in itself. All along the way, we're trying to figure out how to get there. So do you want to wait till episode 500 to get that high life, that good life, to finally be afloat or being able to get to your destination? Or do you want to figure out, let's invest in ourselves, the people who are going to help get us to a better life? Because there's going to be a way for us to do it. And the way might not be pretty in the beginning. It might be a lot of work, a lot of challenge, but that is going to be the building blocks for your foundation, right? That's going to be your solid foundation for you to build the rest of your life upon. Because if you're just moving through life, making movement, but no forward progression, what are you doing? So let's figure out a course of action that's going to lead us to something better rather than something that's just going to waste energy and get us nowhere. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach here in Austin, Texas. If you have any questions, you can email me, coachinginsession@gmail.com. If you want to work with me, head over to revenconcepts.com and we can get you some coaching. I will see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone, take care.